I love conspiracy theories, but to make something work, you don't have to prove it. You just have to have something glued together that will stick long enough for someone to look up. And the problem with this theory is it doesn't stick for this reason. Forgetting the fact that officials, even from the SEC or any other league, probably would never do this without something extraordinary occurring. Why would SEC officials want doing the bidding for ESPN want Clemson in there? First of all, Clemson is the biggest single threat to Nick Saban's dynasty. And secondly, and Bobby knows this, Clemson is not a big television market. Columbus, Ohio is. If you look at the highest-ranked television markets for college football every single year, they are usually Birmingham 1, Columbus, Ohio 2, or Columbus, Ohio 1, Birmingham, Alabama 2. And, Greenville, South Carolina is a good TV market for college football. The problem is not a lot of people live there compared to Ohio. And if you're ESPN, I'll speak only as a lowly employee, Ohio State is as big a draw as there is in college football on the same level with Alabama. Clemson is not. So hate to throw facts at the way of a great conspiracy theory, but I'm forced to on this New Year's Eve.
Starting with Paul Finebaum of the Paul Finebaum Show. It is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Get your local store today. Grab some delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville, now playing everywhere college football games are played. And, Paul, LSU has been unstoppable. They hang almost 50 points on Oklahoma in the first half. Is there anything that can be done to slow down this Tiger offense?
I don't think so. I think you just you have to do something that hasn't happened all year is get Joe Burrow out of rhythm, and they did this the other day without their best running back. I mean, he played a couple of downs, but was really never used as a primary back. And I mean, listen, we've all seen great quarterbacks finally on that final moment of the year suddenly look human, but I don't know why at this point Joe Burrow is going to look human. Miles Brennan, his backup, was asked the other day, do you remember a moment this year when Joe had a bad throw or a bad read or a bad series? He goes, not a single one. Now, he is up against the best quarterback he'll see all year. There's nothing. If you take Joe Burrow out of the equation, Trevor Lawrence is a generational quarterback, and he still is, regardless of Joe Burrow's presence. But I don't think there's anything that's going to change. Clemson just has to try to avoid what happened the other day. I mean, if Clemson plays the same first half against LSU as they did against Ohio State, that game will be 35-0 at the end of the first half. LSU will finish drives, unlike the Buckeyes, and I think that's the big danger. Now, listen, I respect Clemson a great deal. I may not have 6 or 8 or 10 weeks ago, but beating Ohio State, made everyone, or should have made everyone, a believer.
We're talking to Paul Finebaum of the Paul Finebaum Show on Golic and Wingo. Jason Fitz, Bobby Carpenter in for the guys. Help me make sense of the ascension of Joe Burrow. I understand that Joe Brady comes in and is a new passing game coordinator, but to see this meteoric jump from one year to the next from a quarterback, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around why he is so much better. Explain it to me, Paul.
I think he was already always a good quarterback who never quite had the opportunity. We see this in athletics every day. I mean, Justin Fields couldn't get on the field for Georgia, and suddenly he's the starter at Ohio State. And listen, it's not an uncommon thread in sports. But he was close in 18 to really being a good quarterback, but he wasn't probably getting the utilization of the compliments around him. And then I think Brady really went. You've heard this probably before, Jason, but he went to basics, fundamentals. Reteaching the players on that team and a really great wide receiver core how to catch again. Fundamentals 101. They instead of doing 1,000 drills, they did 1 or 2 drills 1,000 times, and it really did seem to have an impact. And I kept hearing, as some of you guys did during spring and even during summer and early fall, hey, you got to pay attention to Joe Burrow. But it still didn't really change anyone's mind. I mentioned at SEC Media Days, we were doing one of those at the end of the day. Hey, who are the 3 best quarterbacks in the SEC after Tua and Jake Fromm? And I kind of threw Burrow out there because I had just gotten through interviewing him and just really love the guy as anyone and everyone does. And a couple of the former players on the panel looked at me like, well, a typical idiot radio guy, just coming up with something different when there were 4 or 5 other possibilities. And that was just based on what I was hearing from callers and friends in Baton Rouge. And then after the first game, I still wasn't sure. And then when he went to Texas and just lit the Longhorns up, a team I thought was really good at the time, I started to believe. But we were still hung up on Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa and all the usual suspects.
Well, if you were to look at in Jalen Hurts' career and you had to summarize it, how would you do that?
Just classic, and I say that because if you look at the numbers, it's an all-time career. But I think to me, it's about the resiliency and the class that he showed, and the fact that he never said a word. I mean, listen, when he was the starting quarterback at Alabama, we would get callers saying, "Get him out of there." Tua's been 2 years ago in New Orleans leading up to the semifinal game against Clemson, everyone thought he would be out of that lineup at the first bad throw. And because Tua had that it factor, but we just had never seen him. And then when he lost the starting job after the walk-off, he was persona non grata in some ways. The fans did not want anything to do with him, but he never said a word. He hung in there. He took it. Listen, guys like Jason and I can't relate to it as well as you could, Bobby, because when you play the game at a high level, you have to deal with anything that comes your way. And he did it as brilliantly, as effortlessly, and as classily as anyone or anybody I've ever seen.
What's up? Thank you so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. Don't forget to download the ESPN app. And if you want more premium content, which you do, make sure that you subscribe to ESPN+. See you soon.